So, Chief, I guess we'll just go ahead and get right to it. Just a few minutes into 2018, we saw our first homicide. For many reviewers, it looks like, you know, kind of an ominous sign of the next year that we're off to. What is your take?
Well, I think that, you know, it doesn't really matter to APD when a homicide occurs. We put maximum effort into every single one. We want to resolve it as quickly as possible. We want to give the public information about what's happening as quickly as possible. So I think that, you know, an arbitrary time period like the first really doesn't make any difference to us. Every single case is important. Every victim's important to us. And so we work them all just as hard. This crime,
does it kind of fit into the category of targeted, not random, the general public shouldn't be concerned? The latest homicide.
Yeah, I think it fits into that category. I mean, the detectives are investigating it, and we've released everything that we can at this point. There may well be more information, you know, in the days to come, but I don't feel like it's a random thing where people should be worried that somebody's out there wandering around.
As we head into the new year, a lot of us have our own resolutions. Do you have a resolution or goal, perhaps, for the department in 2018 that you'd like to share?
Well, I think that the department's goal in 2018 remains the same. We're continuing to work hard every single day to keep Anchorage a safe place. We have an amazing relationship with the community, and every time I leave state and see how police departments are doing in their communities and other parts of the country, I'm so happy that we have the relationship we do with the Anchorage community. So our resolution is to continue to make that stronger every day.
And looking at the amount of resources that the city has put into the department, and then looking at our crime rates, do you feel that we're still in this period of perhaps a lag time that has been explained to us several times of, you know, we are feeling now the effects of decisions that were made years ago and we're trying to catch up?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely plays a part. You know, all of these things, whether it's changing crime rates or changing the size of the structure of the police department, those things take a long time to happen, and they take a while to unhappen too. So I think that is part of it. You know, the department today, with the most recent acquisition of recruits in the middle of December, is really the strongest it's ever been. We're the largest ever been. You know, the attitude and morale of the people that work here is very high. We have a very high level of technology and sort of skills available to address crime issues in Anchorage. So I really feel like we're the strongest we've ever been, and that's a good thing for everybody that lives in Anchorage.
Do you notice what you have sometimes with more officers on the street, you're going to see a spike in some crime categories because there's more enforcement out there?
You could, yeah. I mean, obviously, more police officers out conducting more investigations, doing more things, you're going to see an increase in some of the reported activity, and that's to be expected, and we're probably already seeing a little bit of that, but some of the things that we're seeing obviously are not attributable to that, and some of the property crimes and other violent crimes, so those are all things that we're working on.
I think something the department struggled with last year, and perhaps even further back than that, was this idea from people that you're not going to show up, so why should I even report it? And I know you guys made a big push to help the community understand that they need to be reporting these crimes. Do you feel that do you feel like you've seen an increase in reports because of that outreach?
I think some of it, yeah. And we're still encouraging everybody to do that. I mean, the police department responds to every single request for service that we get. Sometimes that response is, if it's appropriate, directing people to report things online or over the phone, because sometimes that just works out better for everybody involved. But ultimately, we respond to every single call that we get. So I always encourage people, you have to call and let us know if there's an issue. It's really difficult for us to solve something if we don't know what ever happened. So, you know, I think that encouragement to call, that could certainly be part of that. But, you know, I would never want that to discourage people from reaching out to the police department for help.
Looking at last year, you know, being the deadliest year yet in Anchorage on record, we've already had a homicide this year. Are there things that the department could be doing or that the community could be doing to fix the problem at all? Because you guys can't stop someone from going out and murdering someone. I mean, we're all aware of that. People are going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
Are there any factors that can be controlled here?
Well, I think that there are a lot of things the department can do, and we're already doing quite a few of them. You know, it's very difficult to select one single crime stat and focus on that and feel like you're going to have an effect on it. The department really has to have a broad spectrum, sort of community-wide effort to address crime activity in Anchorage, and we're doing that. And we've talked about that a lot, I think, in the last few months. Things that, since about the middle of the summer that we started doing and really pushing on. And, I feel like we're having an effect there. I hope that that's reflected at some point in crime stats, but ultimately, you're right, it's not something the police department can do all by itself. I think people that live in Anchorage, have to participate in that, and sometimes that is talking to your friends and family members about the kind of activity they're involved in and maybe questioning that. And, that's something that we as a community just can't tolerate. People that are involved, whether it's drug crime or violent crime or property crime, those people all know people. And if you have friends and family that are involved in that kind of activity, you should be trying to curb their behavior. And if we don't all work on that together as a community, it's probably not going to change.
And then in a circumstance like, New Year's Eve night, everyone's out partying, having fun. Mm-hmm. This guy gets gunned down. Is there something he could have done to be safer? Or, and I don't know if you can comment on this yet, but...
Probably not yet. We might be able to in the future. Yeah.
Any takeaways from last year or moving into this year, tips for people for personal safety?
I think that Anchorage is still a really safe place for the average person that lives here. I think that, I don't have anything specific to say about that. I think the department has been and continues to be really good at responding to these kind of things when they happen, identifying somebody in pretty short order. I think, we're, to a certain extent, we've set the bar pretty high for ourselves, so people sometimes, if it takes a little longer than a day or so, there's some questions about that, but that's not a bad thing. That just goes to show that the department's very effective, and people that live in Anchorage expect us to be effective, and that's okay.
Yesterday when I talked to Jamie Boring about
Mm-hmm.
the New Year's Eve homicide, he said, I know Chief Dahl, and he doesn't take this night lightly.
That's correct.
Do you agree with that? And can you kind of maybe elaborate?
Well, actually, Jamie Boring and I have known each other for a long time, and I think that the department always views, there's a lot of activity on New Year's Eve and early New Year's Day. That's nothing new. That's been going on for as long as I've worked here. So we're aware of that, and we're out in force, and there's a lot of extra people on the street typically, and we want to make sure that people can have a good time and celebrate the holiday and do it safely.
I talked to someone who was the victim of a vandalism, Urban Sushi, and she told me, our mayor said that he could get a handle on this, and we've had these high crime rates. Our mayor, she kept kind of placing blame on the mayor and saying maybe someone else needs to take a crack at it. Well, now he has opponents running with a tough on crime message. Do you feel that there's an issue in the administration that's contributing to crime?
I think that this administration and the assembly and just the city as a whole have been extremely supportive of everything that we've been doing at the police department, and I don't have any real issue with any of that. I think that if you look at the way the assembly has been supporting the police department through funding, and then all of the outreach that we get from the community as well, I think everybody's very supportive of the police department. I think that we're just it's hard to kind of keep in mind because it does take so long, but it's like an 18-month pipeline to get new police officers at the police department. We really started pushing on that kind of towards the second half of 2015, and we're just now kind of starting to see the results of that. So all these things take a while to come into effect. I think that we've been doing a lot, and we're going to continue to do a lot to address these issues as they come up in Anchorage, and I think that that's a good thing.
We covered the investigative support unit last week and all their success. Is there any other plans, kind of like you were the one who brought that into being, I guess, for the department? Are there any other plans similar to that, changing groups around within the department for the year?
Yeah, I think as we continue to bring new officers on board, there'll continue to be some adjustments in different places. For example, adding detectives to property crimes. Whether or not we provide additional staffing for the traffic unit, things like that. We'll continue to fill out some of the specialty areas. And I think that does have a direct impact on what's happening in town. So, as we work our way through 2018, we'll be kind of evaluating where the best places are to put those folks and how we do those things. I don't know if you'll see any new units spring into existence like that, but I think it'll be more of sort of filling in staffing in units that already exist. So I think that you'll see some other things happen as well as we continue to try to do our outreach to the various parts of Anchorage, different neighborhoods, businesses. I really want to see officers that are assigned to patrol have kind of a permanency to the part of town that they police in. It's really beneficial to the officer and also the businesses and residents to that piece of town to have kind of a consistency in who's there. The officers get to know the people and the problems in that area. The people that live and work there get to know their officers. It's mutually beneficial. So we really want to kind of push in that direction, and that'll probably be something that we try to bring online here pretty soon with the patrol division. There's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen in the background to make that happen that nobody's interested in, but
Yeah.
it takes a little time.
Last question for you, I think. Viewers, I see, especially when we put this story up of there's been a homicide, people say, oh, not surprised, good job, Anchorage, or they call it Los Anchorage. Do you have anything to say to those people?
You know, I've lived in Anchorage a long time, and I think that I've seen Anchorage kind of swing through different cycles, and we're obviously doing that again now. I think it'll swing back the other way. I still think Anchorage is a great place to live. I could be happier that I had the opportunity to grow up here and then ultimately get hired by the police department and spend all this time, you know, really working for Anchorage. So I think Anchorage is a great place, and I think the people that choose to live here are great people, and, you know, they've picked Anchorage because it is a good place to live.